Hey, okay, this is not a market watch update. You're going to get another one of those from Amanda later on today or tomorrow. Super important interest rate update though. Please just kind of slow down, pay a little bit of attention to this. This is something you need to know. So interest rates, we've been on a wild ride with interest rates for a while. Most recently rates were starting to moderate down a little bit, which was nice. They were under 7%. That has changed. So I want to go over that. And I want to go over the strategies that we're going to be implementing. So last week we had a report come out, retail sales. Retail sales showed that retail spending was up about 1% higher than expected, which is kind of crazy because when you consider that credit card debt is at an all-time high, and would you believe that the average interest rate on a credit card is 22.5%? So while this report was inflationary, we know that credit cards have limits and there's going to be a point where the spending actually goes the other direction, but rates didn't like it. Not that big of a market mover, but this week, a couple big market movers. Fed minutes came out yesterday. The Fed minutes are essentially where the Feds unpack what happened in the Fed meeting. And really they talked a lot about inflation being stickier than they thought it would be. And is it? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Keep in mind, the Feds have raised rates higher and faster than they ever have in history. So one would argue that, hey, maybe the Fed hasn't given enough time for these interest rate hikes to take effect and allow the economy to adjust. But whatever, it's the Fed, they're gonna do what they want. Our job is to pivot and react to it. And so that's what we're trying to do. Keep in mind, in years past, the Feds would do this at a much slower pace, but now with technology, they can raise rates and lower them really quickly. Second thing, or the third thing rather, is a report came out today. I shouldn't say a report, but there was a treasury auction in Japan, which sounds crazy, right? Treasury auction in Japan, like what is that? How does that affect us? Well, as much as interest rates are affected by inflation, a big part of that are treasury yields and mortgage-backed securities, also known as mortgage bonds. There's a treasury auction, it went horribly bad. It sent treasury yields up, mortgage-backed securities down, interest rates up, and we're a global economy. So when treasuries get ripped, overseas, then it affects us here. So the result, interest rates are, well north of 7%. I priced out a loan this morning. The interest rate was teetering between 7 1/8 and 7 1/4. And keep in mind, we're a wholesale bank. The national average is 7.4%. So even though we're below the national average quite a bit, it's still, when we start talking about how this translates to a payment, it makes for a big payment. So how do we react to this? Well, we know that interest rates hit this high, the same high in about October of last year. Real estate slowed down, and it probably will, depending on how long they hold here. But the two fundamentals that play in real estate is, buyers want to buy, sellers need to sell. So what we're expecting if rates do hold here is a little bit more leverage on the buyer side to negotiate closing costs. Utilize those closing costs for a buy down. As much as 7 1/4 is a high rate, hey, do a buy down, get them 5 1/4. We know next year is going to be a safe haven of lower interest rates. We know that while the Feds are aggressively raising rates, they're doing that to push down inflation. When that happens, deflation is just as scary as inflation. So once we get close to that target area, and the Feds have already said this in the Fed minutes, they're going to start lowering those rates next year. So, having a short-term strategy of a buy down, in a market where, there's still a little bit of inventory, the ability to get a buy down, and then a long-term strategy of being able to refinance next year with lower rates. That's how we're adjusting. That's how we did it last time. Interest rates affect our real estate market. They just do. And so we can take a posture of hey, this is going to affect real estate. Things are going to slow down. This kind of sucks. Or we can take one where we pivot and we strategically go in a direction that allows us to continue to do business. So that's it. We're always entrenched here. We always want to let you know exactly what's going on in the way of interest rates and how we're going to make changes here. I would love to hear your feedback. So shoot me back a text or give me a call. Have a wonderful weekend.